Who's that guy in that old shirt? Who must be the fence expert? Who's that guy in that old shirt? Who must be the fence expert? It's almost time to talk about the fences. It's time to discuss operations and expenses. It's time, it's really time to elevate small businesses. It's time for Joe to drop his knowledge, it's relentless. This rhyme of mine is getting a bit ridiculous. So here we go, we're live with Joe. Enjoy the show.
What is up, Fence fam? So good to see you guys virtually, as it were, or as it is. How do you say that? I don't know. Glad to be back with you guys again in the Expert Professional Wood Care Studios, coming to you live. Always good to see you guys, and always a big shout out to Expert Professional Wood Care Products. They sponsor the live, and I really appreciate it. They're really good folks. If you guys read the description, you know who we're talking to. We're talking to Michael Reed, the Executive Director of the American Fence Association, about FenceTech 2023 in OKC. Michael, how are you?
Good morning. How are you, Joe?
I'm doing so well. I hope our live is as informative as like the 15-minute talk we had before the live.
I like that. I like being prepared. So It was good. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about FenceTech. Let's get into it.
It's going to be here before we know it. I was talking to my wife last night. I was like, okay, so February, you're not going to see me more or less for the rest of the month. Like there'll be days here, days there, but we've got a lot of big things coming up. But the biggest thing of this month, well, yeah, I guess we get there in February. The bulk of it, I guess, is in March. Anyway, FenceTech 2023 in OKC. the planning for this is probably pretty much done, isn't it? Now we're just to the execution part.
We're dotting I's and crossing T's, and this is where kind of the rubber starts to meet the road, I would say. And then so people are saying, "Oh shoot, this came up and I can't attend," or
Sure.
So we're filling education spots. We're making sure the awards are ready to go. We're making sure that booth spaces are set exactly where we promised they would be. And so now is just a matter of making sure that the final details are in place so that folks have a good experience when they hit the ground in Oklahoma City.
Absolutely. And the convention center itself is already starting to prepare.
Yeah, the whole, I was at the Jackpot show a couple weeks ago in New Jersey, and I was giving remarks to some folks, and I compared it to other convention cities. So when you go to like the last FenceTech in New Orleans, when you go there, like New Orleans is there and you're participating in New Orleans, and it's great. It is that kind of city. But it's different here. There's a different feel in Oklahoma City because we are what's happening for that week, and the city knows it. The convention center knows it. The Bricktown, where all the bars and restaurants are, they're preparing. Like, they're excited for us to be there, and they're just as excited for us to be there as we are to be there.
And it really shows. So one of the things we talked about on the show, so my salesman, my salesman display or booth there is having a broadcast stage where we're interviewing giants in the industry. And so as part of that, Rachel and I were on a call yesterday with their IT guy, just talking about kind of what we're needing as far as to live stream and all that. This gentleman was incredibly accommodating. I mean, he was asking us what we prefer. Well, where would you like the line to come, and where, what do you need? How can we make you successful? Like, this is a very different experience.
Our planning staff is spoiled because that's the same exact treatment that they're getting from the folks there. And it doesn't matter whether, like, we're calling around now for extra hotel rooms, and we're trying to line up and accommodating and helpful, and knowing that you've got to, you as us as the client have a job to do, and they're trying to make it easy for them. It's been our experience. I'm glad you had that experience, but that's been our experience in prepping for FenceTech. I
think it's going to make for an exceptional show.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, and like I say, it's kind of it seems to be the exception. I think it's going to make for a really nice show. Let's do this. Let's say hi to a few folks. We've got some folks piling in here. We're actually also streaming live on TikTok. So hello TikTok, and we can't bring their questions up here, but we've give them a shout out. All right, Bo was first up. Bo DeVore says, "Good morning, Fence fam. Tapping in from Oregon." Bo is like one of the weekly watchers here. I like it, Bo. We need a term for the weekly watchers. Weekly watchers is not a good term, but for the guys that like tune in weekly, the
immediate Fence fam.
We'll the immediate Fence fam.
Everyone's in it, but only I don't know.
We'll noodle this around a little bit. I love the content as always. Very insightful and entertaining to say the least. Bo, appreciate that a lot. Michael Greenfield, what's up, Mike? How are you, sir? Good morning, Joe. Tuning in from the STL to watch the show. Looking forward to seeing everyone at FenceTech. I agree. Paul said, Paul, I apologize. I'm not going to give your last name a try because it's I'll probably butcher it. But Paul says, Virginia here, production manager of a local fence company. Paul, welcome. Appreciate you tuning in. Oh, Stevie's here. Good afternoon, Joe, and all the fence fam. Guys, we did it. We got a box with hats to Stevie in Ireland. Thank you, Rapid Ship Republic, for helping make that happen. They're not sponsored, but they were very helpful, and they helped get this done. They got the box all the way over there to Ireland. So, Stevie, welcome. Good afternoon to you, sir. Jeremy's here with us. Good morning from Fort Worth. Good morning, Jeremy. Fence Genius, Mr. Knudsen. Hello. Good morning from Washington State. Good morning, good sir. Charles Viner says, hello, everyone. Watching from Davenport, Iowa on banks of the Mississippi River. I hope you're doing something fun there on the Mississippi River. Todd Skolsky says, good morning from Boston. Good morning, Todd. I feel obligated whenever I say Boston to throw that really bad accent in with it. I understand it's horrible. It's not even close, but I don't know. You kind of want to say it. Josh Rand gives us the frozen face emojis. Good morning, Josh. Josh is up in the frozen north. Are there signups? So this is a good question. So are there signups for classes, or do we just pick one and show up? Website at the time I looked only had scheduled times.
No, when you register, you should register for the classes. That way we know if we have, that's the kind of stuff that happens in the last minute. When we see that one particular class has a whole lot more registrants in it than another, we flip them so that we can accommodate folks. So that you definitely need to register and say what class you're interested in, so we can make sure there's enough seats for people.
Well, and that's a good point here too, because I saw this come up in one of the Facebook groups, is that you do register for the educational content. Well, you register for everything. That way you get your badge, and you get the check-in process goes a lot smoother that way.
You get what you want. I mean, that's that the reason why our registration, people come to FenceTech for different reasons, and they have different interests. And so we have a little bit more complex registration process so that people get exactly what you want when you come.
Well, and you reserve space too for like the welcome dinner, the kickoff, and everything.
Everything.
One year, my first FenceTech was San Antonio, and I didn't know you registered, so we showed up, and I'm like, well, I'm here, and we have to check in, okay, and then unfortunately the dinner was sold out already, so like, well, we don't have room for you. Like, oh, okay. So I need to register in advance from now on just to save my seat. So
if folks, there's a lot of folks that drive in. They make that decision in the last minute. They know that they got a 4-hour drive to the whatever space that it's in.
Sure.
And they show up. Basically, what you do when you show up to something like that is you walk the show floor, and you get all the benefits of being on the show floor. But by the time you get there, we've already booked food. We've already booked spaces. It's really hard to do extra stuff if you don't register ahead of time.
Yeah. So guys out there watching, if you're planning on going, register now. I mean, we're a few weeks out, so there's still space available and all that, but registering, make sure that you get a seat, where you want for what events. Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the registration process, you log into your AFA portal and then you can register from there. Is that right?
Yeah, it's all done. And if you're not an AFA member, you have a chance to join. But but whether or not you're a member, go to the website, the FenceTech website, register on the FenceTech website, and that whole process is. We don't have a lot of problems with the registration site, but if you do,
pretty straightforward
services, and they'll take care of it.
Absolutely. So make sure you guys get the seats in the right rooms that you want by registering and choosing the educational classes that you are interested in.
Hey, Joe, just as a side note for that, it's not just about what's happening at FenceTech. It's also housing. I kind of mentioned it, that housing was almost 100% with what we booked.
Yeah.
And we're scrambling to get extra hotels. So
find more rooms.
People can register. So just know that that's the other thing. If you choose not to register and you're just going to drive in for the day, great. We'll be happy to see you.
Sure.
But you may have a tough time because there's a ton of fence people coming taking up rooms.
Yeah, you might have a hard time finding a place to stay.
Might be on the outskirts of town.
That's a good problem. That's a good problem.
It's a great problem.
JC Fence says, "Hey guys, see you in OKC." You got it.
You're there.
CNS Vinyl. Hello, everybody. What's up from sunny and hot Florida? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear anything about sunny or hot. So thanks so much for coming. No, what is that? It's cold and overcast here, which is why I'm a bit grumpy about this hot and sunny talk. Jerry Davis, good morning. Good morning from Big Jerry's Fencing. Good morning, Jerry. Appreciate you joining us. JC Fence says, hi, Todd. Okay. Front Rock Fences says, good morning. Orange, you glad it's Saturday? Yes. And I can appreciate, listen, this whole orange thing is a godsend to dads because I get to make all the orange dad jokes. Like the knock, knock, who's there banana joke. My kids hate it because I tell it so often. I've got my 5-year-old. He can say it perfectly now. I can appreciate a good orangey glad. So, yes, sir, I am pretty glad it's Saturday. All right. So Mike, we had talked about before this went on the top 5 reasons someone would want to come to OKC, to come to FenceTech in OKC? I mean, besides seeing you and myself and other people like that, there's 5 other reasons too. I mean, there's lots more than 5, but it's like the top
if we're
5.
going to do a top, I mean, you can do a top 5 reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. So number 5, OKC is going to be Fence and Gate Central. So we talked a little bit about this,
Sure.
But I like the analogy how we're phrasing this, in that at New Orleans, there was a party going on anyway. We just happened to be at it. They're having minor parades. They were, I think that's what they call the small. Anyway, they're having parades. They're having this and that, and we happened to be there at that particular time. You know, the party was going on with or without us. We just happened to show up. But at OKC, they're rolling out the red carpet for us, for the Fence and Gate community.
We are the party, and it's going to be a damn good party.
Yeah. So it's and if they've met the fencing community, they know that we can throw a pretty good shindig. We can put a pretty good thing together.
Yeah, and I think, I also think that the folks in Oklahoma City, they just get us. They get who we are. They get what we're trying to do. They just get us, and I think that shows in how we're being treated. Your experience that you had calling the convention center, the experience that my team's had as they're getting the party ready. They get us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I go to Tulsa quite a lot, which is in the vicinity of Oklahoma City, but very down to earth, good people. I mean, not as down to earth and good people as Missourians, but hey, who can hold up to that standard, right? But if you can't come to Missouri, you ought to go to Oklahoma, sort of thing. No, it's full of good people, just really down to earth, good folks.
Absolutely.
Not saying anything about anywhere else, but I think that's part of what we're feeling too when we reach out and talk to them. And they're, like I said, really accommodating. Want to make sure we're going to have the best time ever.
It's going to feel like coming home a lot. So no matter where you're from, going back to FenceTech is going to it's going to have that comfortable feeling of going home. And it's going to be all around you. It's going to be the whole experience. They are rolling out the red carpet for us, and that feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the nice thing, we've talked about this already, but the venue itself, like the whole area, that Bricktown area, is built for convention centers. It's built. They've got all the infrastructure we need to not have to go, catch an Uber to this dinner or catch an Uber to that dinner or to this, after party or whatever. Wherever we're going, it felt like elsewhere you've had to just figure out transportation to get all over town to go to these different places. It sounds like in OKC, it's all going to be more or less walkable.
More or less, and then they have a great tram system that is going to be free while we're there, and so
nice.
It's anywhere that you feel like you can't walk to, you should be able to jump on the tram and be able to get yourself there.
Fantastic. So number 4 is networking and relationships. Meet your peers, deepen your relationships with suppliers and customers. This is probably one of my favorite parts of FenceTech. Yeah, it's just being around others in the community.
And it's something that we are, we're good at it. We're good at many things, but we're exceptional at a few things. And this idea of bringing folks together in this way is something that AFA does exceptionally well. Yep. And so when FenceTech comes around, this is what most people highlight and say, this is our opportunity to be in the same room, connecting over things that are jointly important and kind of rekindling those relationships and deepening them.
This is where all these the organizations within AFA can get together too. So the chapters. That's where
I look at it like in 3 levels. So we have the kind of traditional trade shows. So suppliers are there to meet customers, and customers are there to meet their suppliers. And there's that kind of interaction that happens. That's kind of a traditional, and we do that trade show floor runs exceptionally well. Then you've got this whole thing from contractors meeting other contractors and what folks can learn from one another, and then kind of the inner workings, the leaders of the industry getting together. So Women in Fence are having a big panel, and then followed by a social reception. Young fence professionals are getting, so these communities that are inside of AFA, that exist inside of AFA, they're all meeting there because everybody's going to be there. So it's kind of the leaders of the industry getting together to decide what comes next for the industry.
Absolutely.
And that's it's powerful, and it's what makes AFA kind of sticky, and why people are here and volunteer year after year after year, is because they get an opportunity to take the industry and advance it in the ways and with the people who think that's important as well.
Absolutely. So for those of you watching that are planning on going, figure out what these sub events are that are going on during AFA that you can get plugged into. We're getting Sarah plugged into the Women of AFA that you mentioned. Now we're in the Midwest chapter, so the Midwest chapter is also going to have a meetup there at the convention center. So I'm also in CLFMI, so Chain Link Fence Manufacturers Institute, for the wireworks side. We're having a meeting there at the convention center. So figure out who you're plugged into already and what events they're doing, or who you could be plugged into. So young fence professionals, like, they've kind of still adopted me. I don't know that I qualify really much anymore, but they still let me in. So that's awful. It's awful nice of them. But no, they usually have a good get together. Last year it was they had a band playing, a live band. It was pretty slick.
It's good, and it will be this year. I would say, Joe, that if you're not connected to any of those other things, you know how easy it is you sit down with somebody at the AFA booth and say, this is what my business is like. These are the things that I'm interested in. And then you get kind of navigate. It's like going to a guidance counselor when you were picking your classes, or, you sit down, and that's the beautiful thing about AFA in general, and the power of associations is that you get to come to AFA and then do what's important to you. So you get the power of this industry-wide organization and everybody rowing in the same general direction, but then you get to go to the part of the AFA that makes the most sense to you and connect with other people who think that's important too. It is why associations are powerful.
Yeah, and you get plugged in anywhere. And just because you're not already plugged in when you get there doesn't make any bit of difference. Young Fence Professionals is a good example, because I knew there was an event, but I was like, I don't really qualify for that anymore, I don't think. Are they checking IDs at the door? I don't know. But when I was talking to who's I talking? I think I was talking to Nathan Downs. He goes, "Hey, we're going over to Young Fence Professionals. You going with us?" Like, I don't know that I qualify for that anymore. Like, let's go. Like, you're coming. And as soon as you get there, it's other fencing professionals, right? So you're like, oh, I know you and you and you and you, and I got plugged in really easily. So just because you're not plugged in yet doesn't mean you can't get plugged in when you get there.
It's one of the great things about the AFA culture is that it's really hard to stay on the sidelines. I mean, people, the AFA culture is one of bringing people into the center. And so FenceTech feels like a big event because it is. It takes up a lot of space. There's a lot of things to see and do while you're there. But if you make a little bit of effort, you will be brought into whatever that smaller community is. So AFA can feel big sometimes when you're new to it, but it doesn't have to be. You need to be real clear about what your passions are and what you think is important, and then we'll connect you with other people who think that's important too.
Well, and the thing is too, like, everyone's approachable. Like, we're all in the same community. We're all in the same industry. So everyone there is incredibly approachable. I got introduced to some absolute giants in the industry that was like, I don't know if I should be talking to these folks or not. Like, I don't know if I belong in this particular circle that I'm in right now. But I mean, everyone's in the same industry though. So we're all talking feds. We all have pretty much the same struggles, different versions of them maybe, but more or less the same struggles.
And I think ultimately we're after the same thing, and that's the growth of the industry. So at the end of the day, the fact that we have a common goal, so whether I'm worried about my business and how to scale my business or do something new or learn something new, yes, that's the same struggle that other people are having. So it's nice to know that we all have common problems. But at the end of the day, whether you come from the supplier side or the contractor side, the bigger goal, the bigger brass ring that we're all striving for is that growth of the industry. And the way that we do that is increasing professionalism and increasing our networking ability, increasing education and credentialing. And once people understand, oh, this is how the industry is growing. This is how we're advancing the interests of the organization. Well, then they feel like they can participate. And that's what, that's how FenceTech feels big, but gets little really quickly.
Yep, that's right. Well, even if you're going to your first your first FenceTech, you start getting plugged in with people. But then the second FenceTech is like you're coming home, right? You're seeing all the people you haven't seen coming home for like Christmas or something. You go off to college, you come home, and you start seeing all your friends. You're like, oh, yeah, you. How was your year? How are things going on?
It's homecoming. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Now with social media, it's not as much as that.
I've never thought of it in those terms, but that's exactly right. I think especially as we look at Oklahoma City and then FenceTech 2024 in Nashville, I think I want to pick up that theme of if you've never been before, you need to experience it, because it is when you walk onto that. I do it even now when I walk onto the trade show floor, and I've been to a lot of trade shows after 30 years in the association world. I walk into the trade show floor and everybody's got butterflies in anticipation. You walk onto that show floor and you're like, holy cow. This is a big deal, and I'm part of what's happening. It's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, and because you are even the contractor that's there for the first time, they're still part of it. Yeah, they're still part of this whole thing. So you also you mentioned suppliers. You also get to link up with suppliers that you haven't seen in a little while, especially coming out of the pandemic. Some of our suppliers are still, they're still getting back out into the communities that pre-pandemic, we knew all of our outside salespeople, right? They were by once a month or every couple months. We knew who they were. We saw them face to face. We'd grab lunch or breakfast or something. But then the pandemic happened and that went away. And seems like some of the suppliers were really good at, right out of the gate, sending outside sales folks back out. Let's shake hands. Let's meet face to face again. And then some are still just trying to get back out into the community. So this is also a good place to meet face to face with your suppliers and potential suppliers.
I think that's exactly what's happening, and I think it's a natural transition from the pandemic. And I also think that as people are looking into the future, and depending on where you sit in the fence industry with regard to your forecast of the future, they're moving salespeople around. They are having new sales programs. They're introducing new product lines and new sales programs, and they prep for this event in a unique way. They're running the rest of the year just like everyone else is, but they are prepping. So anything new is going to be highlighted at FenceTech, and to be able to sit down, and if you're thinking ahead and thinking, well, I'm going to, this is the year I'm going to fabricate my own gates, or this is the year that I'm going to do my own whatever new product line that you're introducing new into your customers. This is where you want to line up those relationships and solidify the relationships that you have.
Well, and part of the conversation too, just talking about trade shows in general, is so we as a service business go to our own version of trade shows, right? Lawn and garden shows, home builder shows, that sort of thing. And the talk now is like, well, we're so engaged with our clients already through social media and whatnot. Are these still important? Like, do they still have a place? And I love them because of the one-to-one, interactions we get to have with people that we used to see every year at these things. But also it's where we unveil our newest and greatest innovations that our customers might have missed. In talking about that, so we were down at Nationwide a couple weeks ago, and we filmed a few videos. They'll be interesting because they're rolling out some products, some new innovations at FenceTech. So suppliers are still holding, they're still holding these innovations back to FenceTech to reveal them, so the conversation is why, right? With how easy it is to reach people now, like why hold off until a convention? Well, their reason, talking through it with them is they want people to touch and feel it. They're like, we can try to explain this as much as we want, and we can try to talk about the benefits and try to demonstrate it, but you got to touch it and feel it. You have to, whatever the thing is, if it's, I don't know the example, but you need to be able to touch and feel it to really make it click. So there's still that too of going to FenceTech to see the newest, latest, greatest innovations, and also find vendors that you may not have ever known before. There was one there last year in New Orleans. It was the concrete mixing buggy. I don't know what it's called. I probably should, but you hook up your water source, you hook up your electrical source, you just top in. Top in is not the right word. You dump in your bags of like Quickcrete or Satcrete, your pre-mixed aggregate, that sort of thing, and it'll sit there and mix it, kind of like a mud hog, but different. I had never heard of them before. I didn't even know they existed until we were walking by. I was like, oh, that is slick, and we need to talk about this. I would have never known they existed before, but because I walked the show floor there, they were.
I think it's that people do, on the supplier side, people do hold back innovations to kind of unveil them there. And I think ultimately what I love about the culture of AFA is that it's built on handshakes and relationships. And that's also why I think, last 20 years, as social media has grown, there's people have been ringing the bell of our trade shows relevant, and trade shows continue to grow. They continue to get better and bigger. And I think ultimately it comes, and the pandemic taught us this, that in most industries, but specifically in ours, people love spitting their hand and shaking. I mean, they just want a good, solid relationship with people. And that's where FenceTech is, where that relationship starts.
Well, that's the thing, and the pandemic taught us that. You're absolutely right that we were having these conversations before the pandemic about our trade show is still relevant, that sort of thing, and then we couldn't have them. They just took them away for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
We were like, oh, okay, we're sorry. Can we go back, please?
It didn't feel good at all.
No.
Now we do them, and we just skip this spitting in the hand part.
Yeah. There's still hand sanitizer involved and that sort of thing, but yeah, no, we felt it when I couldn't go to a FenceTech, and when I couldn't go to these trade shows, these home and lawn and garden shows. We felt that as a company. We got disconnected from our customers, from our vendors. Like, we got disconnected on all fronts here. And this is, well, I say that last year we were able to go to a couple trade shows. They opened up last year. Now this year, everyone's back open to trade shows, and we are stoked. We are very excited.
We're feeling that excitement with Oklahoma City too. So that's why we're pacing ahead. Rooms are difficult to get now, and it just, that excitement is carrying over to what we're experiencing in the fence industry as well.
Absolutely. Let's say hello to a few people. There's a question here at the bottom I want to get to, and then we will pick it up at number 3. Let's see. So Fence Vlogs, what's up, guys? Happy Saturday. I did get your email. So Fence Vlogs won a giveaway from Nationwide, so I need to get you connected and plugged in and get your goodies sent over to you. Michael Taylor, what's up, Bam? How are you? Can't wait to see everyone there. Cannot wait to see you. Here's a guy everybody knows or should know. Tony Thornton. What's up, Tony?
Hey, Tony.
Morning, gentlemen. I don't know, gentlemen. He said that plural, so I know you're here, but who else is he watching and calling gentlemen? I don't know.
He's ultra polite, so I think he probably meant both of us, but I think he mostly meant you.
Well, debatable, but I'll take it. Okay. Ashley's here with us. What's up, Miss Roth? Good morning, Joe and Michael. Can't wait to see you both in a few weeks. I agree.
There.
I'll actually see Ashley at Staining Steel University, which is here next week. So February is a busy month. We've got a lot going on.
Week after next, right?
It is week after next. Yeah, next week. So the next week is a manufacturing convention. February is the month of conventions, it seems like. Michael Greenfield has a question for you. Also, the Michaels have a question for each other. So, question for Michael Reed: has the AFA considered doing FenceTech at a destination like Las Vegas, Tampa, Orlando, etc.?
So FenceTech gets planned out several years in advance. One destination that I know folks are excited for. We're not talking too much about it today because we're talking about Oklahoma City, but
Yeah.
2024 will be in Nashville, and the last time AFA was in Nashville, it was the largest FenceTech that was on record. So we're going to beat it for Oklahoma City, and then we're going to beat it again next year. So then we have a schedule, and those get negotiated way out in advance, and Orlando is in that future schedule along with some other destinations like Long Beach. And
Nice.
So we've got those mapped out for the next several years.
So I'm glad you brought up Long Beach, Michael. So that was, I was having a conversation with somebody, and we're talking about how the trade shows don't get very far west. Or, they're kind of central or east or north or south, but they don't get west very much. So it's good to hear the western portion of the United States get mentioned.
Well, we do make an attempt to move them around.
Yeah.
But there's a kind of the calculus that goes into picking a destination is, where do your members want to go? Where have you had successful events in the past? And all of that gets kind of jumbled around. And then there's there's kind of incentives to go to certain places, and that all gets decided. In our case, that all gets decided by volunteers. So the beautiful thing about AFA is that when we choose FenceTech locations, it is a group of volunteers that ultimately makes a recommendation to the board of directors, and then the board sets that schedule. So
sure.
I'm kind of lucky in coming into this now 7 months where that's always a thumb wrestle, right? Because people want that event in their backyard. They want people, but we do FenceTech in January or February, sure. And there are some locations where people are trying to escape from in January and February. So that also, we want to go to a destination that people want to be at in the wintertime.
Right. Well, and that's a fair point. So one kind of part of the calculus that goes into this too is, whether one, I guess, how accommodating the venues are too, like the areas. Like obviously OKC is absolutely rolling out the red carpet, great facility, new facility. So that puts them higher than maybe at a venue that doesn't really mind one way or the other if we come or not. So like, well, do we want to be welcomed, or do we want to, what does that feel like? And probably the size too, the size of the event.
We take up a lot of space. Our gear tends to, our displays take up a lot of space. So the beautiful thing about Oklahoma City is we're taking up all of the space. Just like we're running out of hotel rooms, we're running out of the booth space too. So if suppliers are out there listening to the show too, and you haven't moved on that, shame on you, because there's not much selection left. So the beautiful thing about it, not only OKC being new, but like I said, it's going to be Fence and Gate world all around us.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something to see. It really is, because the last several years have been in bigger destinations where, you just kind of blend in with everyone else. It's going to be interesting to see what that's like, being kind of being the show in town.
Yeah. So in answer to Michael's question, though, just to kind of be clear, those are mapped out long in advance. There are certain destinations like Phoenix, Long Beach, Salt Lake City, Nashville, Orlando that are already kind of in the schedule for the next several years. And that gets done for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is we lock in our pricing now at these rates. And lucky for us that we did do that, because we've seen what this last year has done for inflation and prices.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Well, and especially with a venue like OKC, which is still a fairly new venue, I think as more people go there and experience it, it's going to be a harder venue to get into also. I
would think so. I would think so.
Yeah. So we're kind of fortunate in this.
I can't wait to see the evaluations, because I think people are going to have a really good time.
I agree. A couple more questions and we'll get to number 3 here. So, well, Cannon's here with us. Jackson Fence Company says, "Morning, guys. Cannon Johnson here. Just tuning in. Let's go." Cannon, welcome.
Welcome, Cannon. See you.
Corey says every email that comes into my business account ends in a FenceTech banner now, and I love it. This is the truth. The marketing push is very
Sorry.
effective on this.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, not sorry.
I posted the infographic on my Facebook page yesterday saying, "Hey, I'm going to be there. Who else is going to be there?" So it's effective. It's effective. I don't think you should ever apologize for effective marketing. Jackson says everything is better in Tennessee. Bring it home to the Rocky Top. I agree. We're kind of spoiled here in the next couple of years. So Oklahoma City is drivable for us. Nashville is drivable for us. So we're kind of fortunate right now because we're going to another convention, a social media marketing convention out in San Diego, which is obviously not drivable. Let me tell you about airfare recently. They're getting proud of it. They're getting awfully proud of it. Yeah. About $1,000 a person to fly there anymore. So we appreciate it being drivable also. Dan Wheeler, Fence Industry Podcast. What is up, Dan? Good morning, Joe and Michael. Joe, I'll see you soon at Staney University. Michael in OKC.
See you there.
Absolutely. Juan has a question. First time trying to start and put in my fence using steel post and wood fence. I like that you're off to a good start, but space my post at 10 foot apart on accident. What's the best way to fix? Live in a windy area. The best way to fix that would be to go with 4 foot spacing or 5 foot spacing. So basically split the difference. When we install, so 8 foot on centers, what we prefer, it's the standard that we follow, except for when we go up to 8 foot fence, typically 6 foot on center, or if it's in a really windy area, we'll go down to a 4 or 5 foot on center. So I would say, one, it will double the amount of posts you need, but 5 foot on center, especially if it's windy. You didn't say how tall the fence is, so that's probably part of this equation. But put a post right in the middle of the post you already got. Michael, what do you think?
I'm going to stay in my lane. Sounds like you know what you're talking about. I'm going to stay in my lane.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. No, I think you're going to double the amount of posts you use, but no one's ever cried about having too sturdy of a fence. I think there's a lot of people that have spilt some tears over having a fence that's not as structurally sound. So
sure.
What is the old saying? Cry once. You only want to cry once, right? Just cry it in the beginning when you got to pay for it, and you don't have to worry about it ever again. So Corey, this is one of the comments. My only complaint is missing the lectures because I will be at the CGAD.
Yeah.
There's only so much time. And that's really kind of the dilemma is, do you do the certification route or do you do the educational route? There's not a good answer. There's not. That's why. So one of the things that we've tried to do this next year is give people options throughout the year. And so one of the things you'll notice when you're at FenceTech, think of this more like a marathon and not a sprint. OKC or any trade show is going to be the sprint, so you can sprint during that time. And the rest of the year, you could focus on your credentialing and so you just remember that it's kind of a long-term prospect here, not trying to get everything in all at once. But Corey raises a great problem because I'm putting more emphasis on making sure we get the highest caliber speakers at the conference, and so what Corey's feeling is going to be a very real pain because it's like, well, what do I advance professionally with a specific credential, or do I attend these 4 different awesome speakers? And again, I'm going to chalk that up into the sorry, not sorry category because what we're going to try to do this year is we're going to record some of those things that we think are going to be more popular and offer them after. Okay. And then we're going to offer more credentialing opportunities throughout the year. And then it doesn't become so painful that you can't do everything all at FenceTech. Well, yeah. So I think the key here, Corey, is you're already signed up for CGAD, so this is set for this year for you. But moving forward, probably whatever credential you're going for, one, there's a lot of on the road training going on. Also, AFA University is a great resource. So see if whatever you're going for is offered elsewhere in the year, and then focus on educational lectures because you can't see those elsewhere. if we can get credentialing later in the year, but we can also see a speaker that we won't be able to see again, maybe that's the route. So
maybe I feel for it, because you're trying to, get the most out of your investment dollars, and going to FenceTech is definitely an investment. So I feel the pain. I do.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, but you're right. It's a sprint. It's an absolute blur.
It is a sprint.
For New Orleans, that was the first, was it? Yeah, that was the first year we went with the intention of making content, bringing the FenceTech experience to whomever couldn't attend FenceTech. So we're doing, supplier interviews. We're doing show floor walks. We're doing stuff like that. I really felt like we landed, and then I blinked, and then we're back on the plane. Like, what happened? Did I eat? Did I sleep? I don't know. It was an absolute blur, just because there's only so much time. So it's being compressed into this small space and time. It is a bit of a blur.
Yeah.
Let's talk about number 3, the top 5 reasons to attend FenceTech. Number 3, you get to learn something new. So this is kind of what we're talking about: technical skill building. Yeah. This is starting to feel like a real show here, Michael. Like, we didn't do it on purpose, but it's nice when it works out.
Yeah, thanks, Corey.
Yeah, great tee up. This is really feeling nice. The FenceTech conference is a great opportunity to learn, right? So we're talking about credentialing. We're also talking about these educational, so you could probably put the ability to learn in a couple different buckets here. I think, Michael, could you speak on a little bit on the educational lectures, like what people can expect to see there? That was one thing I had no idea about until I showed up.
So I'll talk about education in general, because I think the conference becomes a reflection of where we're going. We look at professional development or education kind of in 3 big buckets. So we look at it in terms of your technical skill building. So a program like the Gate Design School, that's technical.
Sure.
If you're talking about how to actually build fence in each of the different disciplines, that's all technical. That's the first kind of bucket. Those things that'll make you technically competent in your profession. The next bucket are, what are those things in terms of running your business? Now, what are the things what are the strategies that you need to employ? What are the systems that you need to employ? What are those things that are causing you pain or inefficiencies in your business that you can get better? So that's the second bucket of where we look at education.
Okay.
And then the third bucket is this idea of entrepreneurial leadership. This idea that we are a very unique, wonderful, exceptionally fast-moving industry now, because we have some really smart entrepreneurs. And so we look at that third bucket is, how do we lead and manage our entities? And it doesn't matter whether you're coming at it from a supplier side or coming at it from an education side. That leadership component is something that your professional trade association, AFA, should provide to you. So the reflection of this year's conference moves in that direction. Bucket A, which is that technical competence. Bucket B, which is your business, leading your business. And then that bucket C, which is leadership and management. And when you start to look at AFA's offerings, you're going to be able to identify, oh, this is Fence Installation School, that's bucket A. Oh, this is Fence Contractor Business School. Oh, that's learning how to run, a comprehensive business. And then this leadership and management piece is kind of some of our newer offerings this year, but it's pretty powerful. So that's what you'll see in the conference programming moving forward, and then overall in our education programs for AFA.
Nice. I like it. I was really pleasantly surprised with the educational content, the lecture side content. When we showed up, like I said, that first time in San Antonio, I showed up wide-eyed. I had never been to one. I'd never experienced it. And I was like, oh, so it's more than a trade show. We could actually learn a lot. So that first year, like I said, was really groundbreaking for me. So if you guys are attending for the first year, 1, register, and 2, check out the educational content that you can also participate in when you show up.
I'm blown away by the quality of our instructors, and not just the ones at the conference. So when we run a fence installation school or the gate programs, the gate designer school or the operator and installer school, when we do those, the level of instruction it blows me away of how good it is. Where our instructors are top notch.
Yeah, that was kind of my impression the first time. So the first time I went, I originally was just going to go walk the show floor, and then I got the brochure and I was like flipping through the different educational topics. I was like, ooh, I need to go back and sign up for this too, because we've got a lot of content here. And here's the next problem is like overlapping content where I was like, ooh, I want to actually see both of these. Flip a coin. They're both great. I don't know. The next year I went in and I actually mapped out what content I wanted to, or who I wanted to go see talk on what. But it is as far as lecturers, I guess, or trainers, educators, it's a nice list. It's like kind of the who's who in the fencing industry to a large extent. So,
yep. And I think we talked about this in pre-show, but I think that's the other benefit of what AFA has done strategically is, our director of professional development, Nick Wright, came out of the field and is now running our education programs. And I think what that's going to do over time is build a career path that when people come to the industry, they say, this is my path to advance from I'm brand new all the way to a certified fence professional, or I'm brand new all the way to a gate technician. And our ability to then partner with our members to say, why would you create your own kind of career pathway when you can just use this map to advance your people? You stay focused on building your business, and then we'll be your training partner so your people get better.
I like that a lot, because I think some people are just natural born educators, right? Yeah. Trainers, I can teach you how to do this, that, and the other. And then others just aren't. And if that's not your skill set, you need to find someone with that skill set to provide the training to your people. I think that's one of the things the AFA is doing really well, is providing that, whether it's fence installation school or the operations management, like top-notch educators, but doing some really good training. So.
And the beautiful thing is when you identify somebody, I'm just going to call out somebody that I know is here. So you call out a Dan to say, hey, we need you to volunteer to teach in the school. And you just watch them at the beginning of the week as an instructor develop all the way to the end of the week in their instructor. And then all of a sudden they're like, give me more training opportunities. That kind of experience is how, you remember earlier in the conversation, we were talking about people getting tapped into AFA to their passions. That's an exact example of somebody's thinking, well, I'm not going to teach at a school. Then they get voluntold or volunteered to do it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I actually have some skills in this. How do I get better at this? And that's something your professional society should do for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's training of all different types, because one of the ways you learn really well is by teaching others, right? Doing teach backs.
Absolutely.
So by becoming a trainer and helping teach others, you're also honing your own skills as well.
Absolutely.
It makes you think critically about what you're doing so that you can explain it.
Couldn't have even said it better myself, but that's exactly right. The more you teach, the more expert you become.
Well, yeah, because like I said, you have to think about it critically. This is big in the medical field. So you watch one, you do one, you teach one. And before you show proficiency, you have to be able to teach others how to do it proficiently. That's a massive takeaway. Huge takeaway. And that's one of the things. So when we're teaching team members like out in the field, that's one of the things, like with Scott, our super, that's one of the things I stress to him is like, you need to have these guys teach you to do it. He's like, well, I already know how to do it. Not for learning, right? But they need to be able to walk you through the process to show that they know the process front and back. And it's going to make them think about it a little bit differently and able to verbalize what they're doing rather than just go, you just do it this way. No, explain it. Why do we do it this way? How do we do it? That sort of thing.
Yep.
All right. Number 2, top 5 reasons to attend FenceTech and OKC. OKC in 23. Innovation. If you don't see at least 3 things on the show floor that will be game changers for your business, you're either hungover or not thinking hard enough. It could be both. It could be both. It depends.
Maybe it is.
Depends on whose after party you showed up to.
The number 3 out there, Joe. You've walked the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just threw the number 3 over there. But don't you think that anyone, regardless of time in business, long, short, don't you think that if you don't walk away with at least 3 ideas, something's not right?
Well, absolutely. And an idea could be a new vendor contact, right? So which show was this? This was Phoenix, FenceTech Phoenix a few years ago. We picked up a new vendor. It was a national vendor. We knew they existed, but we just didn't have a relationship with them. One of our previous generations had, and it didn't go well. So that was still like, that's the blessing and the curse of a multi-generational company, is the memory like kind of stays with you for a little while, right? And so this particular vendor, I walked past her booth and they said, "Hey, do you do business with us?" I said, "Nope, sure don't." "Why not?" "Well, my granddad had a bad experience and this and that and the others." "All right, let's talk about this," because that was 30 years ago, maybe, and 1 or 2 things have changed. And so we sat down and kind of talked it through and said, well, all right, so let's do a test buy of this, that, and the other, and just see how it goes. And it went well. And now they remain, one of our key vendors. So you could walk away with new vendor relationships, which is one of the takeaways. You can meet a vendor that you never knew existed. All right. Like it's for last year, the big push was software, right? At least for us, what I saw was software. And so we met a couple good softwares out there. So, well, one of ArcSight, they sent me a nice bottle and it's nice to drink out of. So I drink out of it. But also Contractor Accelerator was another one that was there, which these are kind of coming more into focus. So we use Job Nimbus in-house and we like it. Unfortunately, right now, Job Nimbus has kind of put a pause on onboarding new fencing contractors. They're kind of retooling their onboarding process, that sort of thing. They're remodeling the house. So now it kind of comes more into play. Like, well, so because people ask me, because of this show, we talk about this and they're like, well, what do you use? Like, well, I use this, but you can't use that right now because they're not bringing people on. So I walked away with a couple good solutions. I never met Contractor Accelerator before New Orleans. And so now I've got, and I usually preface it with, I don't use it, but I've been through the demo. It seems okay. You could walk away with different options is my point.
I think so too. I think, and I think what you need to do is it needs to be kind of a force multiplier for your own thinking. If you've got like 6 ideas of how you can either increase efficiency or you can grow, and if you're debating which of these 6 ideas is really the best idea, then you go thinking, this is what I'm thinking. I'm open to other stuff, but this is what I'm thinking. One of those things is going to come to the lead, and you're going to go, you know what? If I use this tool, I'm going to see this in my business, and that's that innovative thinking. I think a lot of people get stuck in when we talk about innovation, a lot of people get stuck in the world of possibilities. And I think coming to FenceTech, you can have the best possibility rise to the top and kind of force multiply your own thinking about your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing we did too was we had 2 vendors that we needed to work together, for what we needed to do. We're like, all right, so you have about 5 minutes because I need you to talk to so-and-so, and we need to figure out some sort of partnership here to make this thing work better. Whereas if we were trying to conference call in or Zoom in, it would take much longer rather than saying, I need both of you. We need to have a conversation here. I need both of you for about 5 minutes. It's also easier to do it that way too.
And it's amazing to see that happening in a reception format. So you've got all these people intermingling, and they're all talking, laughing, and all of a sudden you see these people huddled together. And when you get people together to solve a problem, and they're all standing there with a soda pop or a beer in their hands, it's a lot different conversation than a big formal meeting. You can get a lot of things done really quickly when you're chatting with soda pop in there.
Well, then you can see somebody else walk by and grab them into the conversation, or who's in the room. So you're like, oh, who can help this along. Let me go grab so-and-so and see if they want to come into this, because we can all get some stuff together, get some stuff done together quicker than if we were trying to do it offline.
And I think what happens is that people are in innovative mode when they're there. I think that people are being extremely creative because there's a lot, you aren't doing other things, or
Sure.
I think it's difficult to do other things. You are fence and gating when you're at FenceTech, and your creativity comes up to the forefront, and you get 2 or 3 very creative, very passionate people trying to solve a problem, and that's what advances your business. Whether you're on the supplier side or you're on the contracting side, that's what advances your business.
Well, so here's the example, right? So we're in New Orleans. We're at Young Fence Professional, so I'm glad I went, right? So I'm glad Nathan kind of drug me along. Not really drug me along, that's the wrong word, but brought me along. So Joshua Glover was there. He's like, hey, I need you to come out here and meet Sam Williams, because we need to talk about getting him kind of in the social light, like getting him in front of more people. Not social light's not the right word, but getting him in front of the community, like plugging him in. I'd like you to talk to him about it. And then while I was there, he's like, actually, I'm doing the marketing push on the national board. So could I plug you in with a few other people? Like, yeah. And all this is happening outside the Young Fence Professionals. If I hadn't been there, would it have been different? I don't, probably. Right. Josh and I have known each other for how long? And it took us all seeing each other at this reception for us to kind of put the dots together.
Yeah. And that's resulting in some really cool stuff that will be highlighted at FenceTech. So if you want to see it in real life and you want to see it first, wink, wink, be at FenceTech.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of good unveilings.
It's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah. I was just we were talking about it a little bit before this, and I was talking to the kind of ringleader of this yesterday, and it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool. Let's say hi to a few people, and then let's see, because so we just wrapped up number 2. Yeah, if you don't walk away with 3 things, you're doing something wrong. Like the other thing I was gonna say is hardware, right? So whether we're talking about tools. Or whether we're talking about just being able to put hands on something. And like, for whatever reason, I think I understood the wire hog, but I didn't understand it in depth until I went and put hands on it and go, oh, this is how it opens and this is how it operates. If I hadn't put hands on it, like, I would probably get it. Like, I understand basically what it does, but not nearly like being able to be there, put hands on it, and have a professional of that, an expert of that piece of equipment explain it to me in depth.
Just different. It's just different.
Well, it is. And like you said, it leads to efficiencies in business. It just knowing that these products exist and how they work. Now, if I see if we start going in large scale commercial chain link projects, I know, okay, this is something that we need to invest in, because here's how it works and here's how it can lead to profitability sooner than, doing it by hand or whatnot.
I think just to remember, it always starts in your head as an idea, and then it becomes that multiplier, that trade show multiplier.
Because while I'm in this booth, I see 2 or 3 other people I know, and they go, "Oh, do you use this yet?" Like, well, I don't. They're like, "You got to, because here's how I use it, and here's how he uses it." We're talking. No dig driving is kind of a big subject right now on Facebook, because there's a lot of good products coming out into the market specifically for that. Well, I was over at, I call them sky drills. Some people call them skidrill. I don't know. I call them sky drills. The sky drill. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. So I'm in their booth talking about it, and then someone I have never met in my life, like, do you use these? Like, well, no. He goes, you should. Like, well, that's what I want to learn about. He goes, don't learn about it. I'm telling you, I tried this, that, and the other thing. This is where I wish I would have started. So he's like, he was a guy that did a lot of solar. So he did a lot of large scale commercial chain link. He's like, I would have saved myself years of headache and heartache if I just thought. So that's kind of the other benefit too, is you can learn about it from the company, but also there's going to be people walking by that were willing to walk you through or explain their thought process on using whatever it is you're considering. So,
or save you from investing or doing something.
yeah. Go. Oh, why are you thinking about
I
that?
guess.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You just say, well, my experience was this. Now yours could be different. You might be trying to use it in a different way, but this has been my experience. Maybe save yourself some headache and heartache. Save your wallet. That's what we really need to be doing.
And that connection, that exchange creates a connection that you don't know. I mean, I think about that, if you knew Josh for a long time and he got you tapped into something you were passionate about that allows you to do something you're really good at in a new way.
Yeah.
And then you met the AFA president at the time to kind of Sam's job as AFA president was to create infrastructure, and that's exactly what happened. So that is exactly what I'm talking about people getting connected into AFA.
Right. Well, and this could have happened outside of FenceTech, right? Possibly, but I had known Josh for a while. Josh had known Sam for a while, and this hadn't happened until we were all three at the same place, and we just started connecting dots. So that's the power of being at an in-person event anywhere, much less, but specifically at FenceTech, because you get a bunch of the same-minded people together, which is mostly a good thing.
Mostly.
Let's say out a few more people. And then we got the number one reason to attend FenceTech OKC in 23.
Sounds good.
Alan Bolding says, good morning, everyone. Alan's pretty fortunate because he lives in OKC. So that kind of works out. I have zero hope that FenceTech will ever come to Springfield, Missouri. So I am jealous that Alan gets one in his hometown. You probably don't want to come to
Springfield. The next few years, we're booked.
Well, okay. The hotels will sell out quickly. There are not many. But all right. So Roger Bittencourt said, almost missed it. Howdy, Fence fam. Welcome, Roger. Another Texanite. Is that what we call it? I think that's what Texans, is what we anyway. What's up, Kenny Dugan? Kenny Sane Man says, morning, guys. Morning, Kenny. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Jesse Mingles here. I just made it then. So this is probably when we're talking about Job Nimbus. So I think that answer started getting rolled out right around first of the month. So you got in a month ago, you got in kind of right at the end. Now, from what I've heard, the intention is that it will be reopened in the future once some revamping's done. Jesse says, good afternoon, guys and gals. Jesse, good afternoon. Is it afternoon already? Well, probably where you are. All right. I panicked there for a second. This thing has gone way too long if it's afternoon already. Jesse is with Spring Valley Fence Company. Jesse, welcome. Appreciate it. Kyle says, better late than never. Hey, Fence fam. Welcome, Kyle. Absolutely. You guys can also watch the replay. So after we get done, it takes it a minute to upload and then re-uploads it as a recorded version of the live, or you can listen to the podcast. And Jeremy's going to be upset with me because I didn't say that in the beginning of this interview, that you can also listen to this in a podcast form, a recorded live version. Recorded live? Is that what that's called?
Recorded live.
Yeah, it's a recorded live. Yeah. Look at us using real terms. Pro Wash Missouri. Hello, gents. Hello, Pro Wash Missouri. Corey says, Corey has a good point. I heard if you have FenceTech in your hometown, you have to do free shop tours all week. Not a bad rumor. Corey might have started that rumor. So there are a few shops in OKC that I would like to see. There's some top-notch organizations there.
Yes, there are.
And actually, since we're coming to his hometown, Alan and I are grabbing lunch one day while we're there. Arrow Fence says, good, informative show today. Thank you, Arrow Fence. Appreciate that. Out of the Tulsa area. It's coming to their backyard. All right. Number one reason to come to FenceTech 23 in OKC. If you don't come, you're going to wish you did. And this could not be more true because we're going to talk about it for a while. We're going to have video. Now, we try to create as much content as we can while we're there. We're going to have more cameras this year than we had last year, just trying to record. That was kind of our thing is last year, there's only so much content we could produce. Right. And it's a big show. It's a sprint. So we're going to try to produce content and bring it to people that couldn't go. But you miss that personal interaction that we're talking about. And you miss out on on the lectures, and you miss out on the reception dinners. You just all of that you miss out on.
I likened it again when I was up in New Jersey a few weeks ago, a couple weeks ago. I likened it to, hey, you knew this party was coming, you got the invitation, you chose not to go, and then after everybody's like, wasn't that a cool party? And you're sitting there like, well, I didn't go.
Yeah. Well,
you're gonna if you miss it, you're gonna wish you had gone.
Yep. Yeah, I've been there before where you get the invitation, you've got something else going, so you don't go, and then all the next month, all year, like, did you see what so and so did? That was awesome. We're like, well, no, I didn't because I was fishing or something, like whatever else I was doing. You're like, oh, it'll never happen again. You missed it forever. Like that is kind of the situation here is just because vendors change, you see products change, you see that each FenceTech is kind of unique to its own, that you can't simply say, well, let me give you an example. So my dad used to go to FenceTechs. It used to be back in the day, they were always in Vegas. Every year it was just always in Vegas. And he would go every 3 years because he's like, well, if you saw it once, next year's probably the same. But then every time he came back, he's like, you won't believe what I just saw. Like, well, is it new or is it 2 years old? If you were there 3 years ago, it could be 2 years old by now, Dad. Like, this might not be cutting edge. You really got to plan to attend every year.
I think we're at a point now in many industries, but I certainly would say in kind of this fence gate and perimeter security space that things are changing so rapidly that you have mergers, you have consolidations, you have new companies entering the space, you have so much change that's happening so rapidly that if you miss FenceTech, you miss a huge opportunity. And what we're doing is we're trying to make that even more so by pulling people together to advance either government relations or advance this marketing and communications thing that you've been working on. So we're trying to advance things that are important to leaders in the industry, in addition to all the innovative and creative things that are happening on the supplier side.
Absolutely. And so by not going, you miss out on all of that.
Yeah, and we're definitely stoking that FOMO, that fear of missing out fire. We recognize that, but in this case, it actually is true. You hurt your business if you don't go.
I believe that. I really do, because the connections I've made at FenceTechs, and it seems like I always make different connections at each one. Sure. I mean, it's not like I made all my connections in year one. It's like every year I continue to make connections. I continue to get introduced to people that are like, can I put you in we don't call it Rolodex anymore, in my phone? Can I put your information in my phone? Because I feel like we need to continue this conversation. It happens every year. It happened last year. I got introduced to some really cool people. I'm like, I feel like I need to know you. Like, you are where I want to be in the future. Like, could we continue this conversation? And I had never met them before at any of the other FenceTechs. Yeah, each one's unique. I
think it's exactly right. And the only thing that I would say in terms of the Fence family who thinks, well, I've never been, it's too late. I'm too. I think the scariest one is the first one. So go to the first one and talk to my team that's in the AFA booth, whether you're a member or not. Come talk to us in the booth, and we'll help you find where it is and who it is you should be connected to. We'll get the ball rolling for you. So it might feel, I'm going to show up and there's going to be 4,000, however many people are going to be this FenceTech. I'm just going to be one little fence company here. And the reality is you are, and you could be a big fence company with the right connections.
Well, that's it. You can get plugged in. All it takes is a few good connections to really leapfrog a business.
Absolutely.
To meet with the most impactful thing you can do is meet someone that is where you want to be, that is currently at a level that you strive to be at.
That's because
correct. Then those people love help. Typically, those people love helping, right? And so we're kind of in that role now where, like, I'm talking to guys that are where I want to be 5 or 10 years from now, but I'm also meeting guys that want to be where we are now in 5 or 10 years. So I can say, all right, well, here's some pitfalls that I fell for that you can avoid. here's some hard lessons I learned that I'd be willing to share with you. Those are the type of people that are there also. It's people that are investing in their companies.
It is a great community to be a part of, because there are people who will help you. I call them shortcuts and potholes, right? So they'll show you the shortcuts that sped them along, and they'll show you the potholes that trip them up. And I think whatever reason you're coming to FenceTech, you want to see new stuff, you want to network, you want to get involved with the industry, whatever reason you're there, there's 3 or 4 other reasons that will keep you coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. The first one is the scariest because you don't know. There's that fear of the unknown. You don't know what's going on.
Right.
That first one of mine, it was like, again, like I had no idea. I thought I just showed up and went. Like, oh, well, I got to register. And there's this whole educational component. And then once I got on the show floor, it was just me being wide eyed, like, golly, look at all this fence stuff. Like, this is like fence mecca. This is incredible. I'm like, well,
fence and gates as far as the eye can see.
That's right. And to a fence guy and gal, that's the best there is. That's the best there is. And so I like right then I walked in, like in the first 5 minutes, like I will forever always come to these. Like this is where these are my people. This is where I need to be.
Yep.
Well, Michael, that was the top 5 reasons for someone to show up as if they needed 5 reasons to show up at OKC. If you've been once, you know exactly what we're talking about. But for those that haven't been, maybe they need a little gentle nudge to come to the first one, but that's all it takes. You show up at one, and then you might as well just pencil it in your calendar for the next forever, because you will just always ever be, for sure.
Yeah. So, Joe, I appreciate being on the show. Appreciate being able to talk to folks. And
of course,
I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.
I do too. It's going to be here sooner than we know it. It'll be here
3 weeks.
We'll go to sleep tonight. We'll wake up there probably.
That's exactly right.
Michael, thank you so much for your time. I really, really do appreciate it. We're talking about having you on again to do like a different type of content. So I appreciate your willingness.
Anytime.
I appreciate your willingness to come on and just talk to us about AFA related events.
Sure. Anytime.
Well, guys, appreciate your guys' time for watching. TikTok, I appreciate you guys tuning in because I haven't even talked to you guys at all. I'll chat with you after we wrap this up. How about that? But guys, appreciate you tuning in. Michael, like I said, I appreciate your time. For now, I'm Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors. And I'll see you next time.